So lately I've been absolutely obsessed with Vertin's mom, and I know this sounds pretty weird, but you know what I mean.
So you have a mother?
Ever since the beginning of the game, there's been a shroud of mystery surrounding Vertin's mom, and of course, since the Notes of Shorty event, there's been a theory that Bessmert could be Vertin's mom. But is this true or a simple red herring? Everyone is understandably freaking out, including myself, about this idea, and with some decent reasoning. Bessmert has the same hair color as Vertin, and they also speak in similar tone and manner.
My position is the timekeeper.
Which is what I'm going to do now.
But what really intrigues me is the fact that Vertin is a timekeeper, someone who records the historical facts of the world, while Bessmert is a story keeper associated with Utu, who knows about the events throughout the eras. So with some similarities, could Bessmert really be Vertin's mom? Of course, that would be cool, but there are some other theories that I found interesting and thought it was worth mentioning. Now, obviously, these are just theories, so if you have your own opinions, make sure you let me know. Now, one theory is that Bessmert is actually Vertin from a different timeline. Essentially, Vertin and Bessmert are the same person. Now, I didn't initially buy into this idea because during the Notes of Shorty event, Yenisei travels with Bessmert, and then by the end of the event, Yenisei becomes part of Vertin's team.
A colleague from the Russian branch was transferred to the headquarters today. She has shown a strong willingness to perform long-term field missions.
Now, at least that's according to the perceived chronological order that they were trying to portray. However, after a bit of consideration, it is entirely possible that this perceived chronological order or the ending could have been the other way around the entire time. For example, let's say hypothetically in the very beginning, Yenisei joins the Timekeeper's team. And then years later, Yenisei and Vertin experiences the events of Notes of Shorty in the future, which would suggest that for some reason, at some point, Vertin changed their name to Bessmert, and for another reason, Yenisei didn't happen to age at all. At least that's what we could assume. Honestly, I'm not too sure what to think of this hypothetical, but let's say this theory is true. Then we have another question. If Vertin is Bessmert, can two Vertins occupy the same space at the same time? Funnily, it is very coincidental that during the version 1.9 livestream, the developers revealed something very interesting for all of us. Laplace states that according to the Foundation's records, no one has ever met themselves in the past. But they do elaborate.
According to all accessible records in the Foundation, no one has ever met themselves in the past so far. But will there be an exception in the future? We just don't know.
What this means, to put it simply, anything is possible. Which would mean that the theory of Vertin being Bessmert and two of them occupying the same place at the same time is possible and open-ended. And with this context, if we go back to the idea that Vertin is a timekeeper and Bessmert is a storykeeper, a timekeeper becoming a storykeeper wouldn't be too surprising, at least from the perspective of a general job description. Now, I'm not saying this is 100% true since we have no idea and we don't have enough evidence, but rather, I thought this idea was interesting and a really fun speculation. Now, on a side note, there is another theory that I considered after playing through chapter 6 of the main story, and that involves Marta. Now, I'm not saying Marta is Vertin's mom. I'm not even suggesting that Bessmert is Marta. I honestly do think Marta is a completely different person. However, Marta does look similar to Bessmert and Vertin for some reason. They do have similar hair colors, and Marta is seemingly blind just like Bessmert. And honestly, I don't know if there's like a gigantic family tree related to Vertin's heritage or even clones for that matter. But it is interesting to consider that characters similar to Vertin, like Bessmert and Marta, could be from the same place, culture, or even background. It's also fascinating that Bessmert is trying to understand Arcanum through the Ask and Acquire ritual from the Eastern culture, and I'm assuming Marta is on the island not only to be a mediator, but also to learn about the rituals on the island itself. And for Vertin, she's been looking for the truth behind the storm this entire time. I'm honestly a bit confused because if all three people were really linked back to some point of origin, I don't even really know what that would imply. Now, on top of this, there's another thing that I found very suspicious back during the theft of the Remic Cup event. Remember that lady that asked the newspaper boy to read her the news? Well, I recently learned that this voice is very reminiscent to Bessmert and Vertin.
No need to apologize, warm-hearted child. Could you please read me the news of the day?
And of course, she's blind, which makes me wonder, how many of these people are there? Maybe that person in the Rimmick Cup event was Bessmert, and we just didn't know. After all, she did narrate the entire story of the death of the Rimmick Cup. Maybe it has nothing to do with it. Maybe I'm going absolutely crazy. But the similarities are very interesting. And as I always like to believe, if something repeats once, it could be a coincidence, but more than twice could end up being a part of something much bigger. If you have any thoughts about Vertin and her mom, let me know in the comments below. And if you're curious on where the story is going to take us, I am live streaming chapter 7 right now, so you could probably catch me on the weekends. And again, a special thank you to the team of Reverse 1999 for sponsoring this video. If you haven't played the game for yourself already, make sure you try it out, because right now there's a 1-year anniversary patch with a lot of new content and quality of life updates. So this is probably the perfect time to start playing, or come back if you took a little bit of a break. Make sure you use the link in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.